Welcome to Amazon Legends, where we have real stories about making it big on Amazon. Our guests are CEOs of large companies and entrepreneurs who became power sellers, also providers specializing in helping sellers, aggregators that acquire sellers, and former Amazonians will give us an insight from behind the scenes. Here is your host, Nick Uresin.
Welcome to another episode of Amazon Legends. My next guest today started his Amazon business with $5,000 and with the help of his grandmother. So talk about enlisting family and friends to help you with your ventures is the perfect example. And today he does over $1 million in annual sales in home category. And when he's not working, he likes to travel because he wants to experience different cultures. So it's not all about work. And also he's a fitness enthusiast. So with that, everybody, meet my guest, Matthew Iswariah. Welcome to the show, Matthew.
Thanks for having me on.
So tell me something. We're going to have to hear about your grandmother's story, but that will come later. So tell me about something that you're doing very well today.
I'm doing very well with enhanced brand content and increasing conversion rates there.
Okay, so enhanced brand content, or EBC as it used to be called, and Amazon decided, that now they're going to call it A+. So we're talking about A+ content and specifically to leverage that to increase conversion. So tell me, what is it that makes you good at it?
I'm good at the creative aspect of it and increasing the perceived value of my products and highlighting the negatives of the other products, the other brands and competitors.
So tell us more. How do you do that with the A+ content specifically?
So the same way you look at other products in the market, you're looking at what they do well and what they don't do well. And then you're going to try and enhance what you do well. So I will literally say other brands are like this and I'm like this. So I'll highlight that in the pictures, infographics and close-ups and angles, and also write about it too. So the main features that I'm better at than other people are front and center in the middle of my content.
Okay, so as far as the illustration of what you are good at and the negatives or the competition, is that a comparison chart, or do you prefer, because A+, as you know, it comes in modules and each module has different options, like you have one picture and what 4 pictures and text and 2 pictures and text. Have you found any one of those more suitable than others to utilize for this kind of information?
Yes. Because of my brand and category, I use more pictures because my product is not as much of a logical comparison thing. So I actually use the comparison chart more for showing the other products in my brand. So I use the pictures and sort of infographics to show the enhanced features of mine versus the competition. And
which one of those formats work the best for you? When you say more pictures, how many pictures are you using? And what I'm interested in more is what kind of an impact they make. And so what did you try and what kind of an impact did you observe?
The recent thing I tried was I looked at one of the key factors that people didn't like other products, and one of the factors that we changed in our product to make ours better. And it wasn't highlighted before. We had a small, if you know those small square pictures on the A+Content. Instead, we changed it and to put it into a large, wide picture with text below as well. So it has like a big headline of text that you can read, and you can see the picture big on the screen. So I featured that at the top.
I see. So how did you know, and what was it that you were watching in terms of measuring the impact of it?
We ran an experiment, so you can do the experiment for 4, 8, or 16 weeks, I believe. So we ran the experiment, and it resulted in something like 8,000 extra dollars in sales. So the conversion rate was about 0.7% higher. I think the new version.
Okay, well, that's actually a good segue to discussing a little bit on the experiment. So walk us through first, for the listeners' benefit, for those who have not yet tested it or you don't even know, tell us about what experiments are and what is the best way to use it.
Personally, I think experiments is good on enhanced brand content. It's not so good at, for instance, the limitation of it is you can't experiment with click-through rate, which is for main picture and title is a key factor. So I tend not to use it on those, but I think it's very useful on enhanced brand content. Because you want to convert basically everyone that's on your listing, you want to convert more people, right? So in my opinion, you should be running tests every single month, because you can split one, basically it's going to show one version of your brand content to one person and another version to the other people, but separating it. So I would run one every month personally.
When you say every month, so this is are you doing this per calendar month precisely so that you can see the exact, or are you just looking at 30 days?
I do 30 days, yeah, like 4 weeks, sometimes.
Okay. So when you create the experiment, you run it for 30 days, and during those 30 days, you focused on A+. And why is it that you want to do it every month?
Because it's a very key factor. Your conversion rate, really, your click-through rate and your conversion rate are the main factors on Amazon. You know, so that's the fundamentals, I'd say, on Amazon.
So, but isn't it better if you have an A+ content that has achieved better conversion? Isn't it better to stick to it rather than use the other one?
Yeah, for sure. That's what you're trying to find out with the experiments. So you know, if you test one really good A+ content 1 month, but you test another one the next month and its conversion slightly higher, then you're going to keep that one, right? So yeah, and obviously if you're not improving that much, if they're not improving by a decent amount in conversion rate, then you're not going to keep doing it. But the goal is to get to the highest percentage you can.
Okay. And so as far as A+ content changing every month, so let's say that you have 2 versions of an A+ content, and then you run one experiment. On the second month, are you launching 2 versions of a totally different A+, or you keeping one and then you are adding another one? You keeping the one that performed better, and then you are adding another one. How are you doing the iterations of it?
Exactly. So let's say we run enhanced brand content test 1 month. Whichever one wins, I'm going to keep that one. And then if I come up with a new strategy or something new I want to test, then I'm going to compare it versus the previous best.
I see. Okay. So that makes perfect sense. So basically you are constantly making it better and better and better. So that way you have, and are you, as far as the numbers, are you checking the numbers on the experiment, or are you checking the overall numbers on the page?
On the experiment. Yeah, because there's a lot of other factors. If you're going to look at overall sales on that parent item or something, then you're going to have to look at advertising costs, how many people you sent there. You wouldn't get the right data.
I see. Okay. All right. So let's talk about the A+ content. So your primary approach is, I'm going to use my A+ content in conjunction with experiments, and then I'm going to work on my conversion rate to make it better and better and better.
Yeah.
Right. That's your.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, obviously, it's a bit of an obvious question, but I'd like you to give us in detail why the conversion rate is the most important and how it impacts your performance on Amazon in general, outside the fact that, you know, obviously you convert more, you increase your sales, but that's not the real reason, right? So tell us why conversion rate is the most important and how it impacts.
Well, so you're spending money on advertising to get people onto your listings, right? So from your own personal perspective, you want to convert as many of those people as you can, otherwise you're going to be operating a loss, obviously, on your advertising. And then something you sort of alluded to is increasing your sales, but the more you convert, the higher you're going to rank for those keywords that you're getting clicks on. So then you're going to get more organic traffic. So it's, from a personal view, obviously you need it, and from Amazon's view, they need it.
So as far as the ranking, conversion working to increase your ranking, this is not necessarily just your, Amazon is not just looking at the overall conversion. They are looking at your conversion per search term, right? That's what it's about. So tell us a little bit more about why that is and how that works.
So, for example, actually, that the enhanced brand content we were talking about, there was a specific feature that I had in my products, and I highlighted in that. And once I had done that, and in my pictures too, obviously, I'm targeting this highlight, I started ranking #1 for that keyword. It's like a long tail version of the broad keyword. So in every niche, you're going to be more targeted, especially early on, towards those long tail keywords. And then if you convert better for them, Amazon's going to show you higher. So, and that's what happened with my product.
Okay. So what at the end of the day is happening is shoppers are coming into Amazon and then they're searching for the specific keywords. And what Amazon wants to see is, what did the customer search and what product they displayed as relevant.
Yeah.
And then out of those that Amazon displayed, what the customer clicked on and what they purchased.
Yeah,
right? So
exactly.
So that's the customer journey, so to speak, as far as from coming to Amazon right from the beginning all the way up to making the purchase. So in the process, Amazon's goal is, as soon as people search something, show the most relevant, best product, and then have them buy it right there and then. That's the goal. So therefore, it's important for you to design your content, whether it's text or product pictures or your A+, centering around those key search terms so that people will search it, and then when they see the listing, they'll identify with the content, and then provided that you have reviews and everything else, and then they'll buy it, and that will increase your ranking for that particular keyword, right? That's the whole plan that you have in place.
Yeah, ultimate efficiency. I mean, Amazon and you would prefer if the customer clicks one search term, clicks this first product and buys it straight away. It's best for you and Amazon, right? So all those factors you mentioned play a part.
Yeah. So how about the reviews? Is there a way to influence the reviews with your A+ content?
With the A+, I would just say we try and influence the reviews to not get as many negative reviews. People tend to only review stuff when it's extremely positive or extremely negative. The middle ground, they don't care. They're not going to review your product. So, you know, we look at questions and we look at the reviews and we try and negate, certain ones there, because a lot of customers don't even read. They don't look at pictures, they don't read sometimes. So if you have, let's say you have a cleaning guide or something, or a way of cleaning, and you only put in your bullet points, a lot of customers are not going to look at that. But that's why you have to put it in the pictures and the brand content too. Otherwise, later on in the customer cycle, he comes back and goes, oh, there's no cleaning or something like this, because they just didn't see it.
Okay. So something you said is very important. You can influence the reviews, but the influence is not necessarily to get more reviews or to get good reviews, but it's to avoid the negative reviews, right? So that's
Exactly.
where you're setting the expectations, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing is, you're early in the customer cycle there, because if you were, I don't know what's in your mind, but if you wanted to say, oh, review us or something like this, it's too early. Like, they haven't even bought your product yet, right? So do you want reviews from customers that don't really like the product? You don't, right? You want reviews after someone who's actually likes the product, and you go, okay, cool, do you want to share your experience? So for me, I don't mention reviews there.
Yeah. I mean, I give you an example. One of the things that happened with one of my clients was they sell a box, like a kit, and it's for kids, and there's a bunch of things in it, and there's information in it, and there's products in it. So it's a kit. And we had a product picture, and this wasn't anything to do with the A+, but it was a product picture where a kid was holding the box. So of course, the kid was a photo, and then putting the box in the kid's hands was a Photoshop.
Okay.
So it's a great picture. So this kid smiling and holding the box, and you couldn't tell it was Photoshop. It was like exactly, the kid was holding the box, smiling. So they got not a negative review, but a 3-star review. And the review said, the box looks bigger in the picture, and when I received it, it was much smaller.
Yeah.
So right, that's a good example, right?
For sure. Yeah, and I mean, that's what I don't recommend photoshopping in general anyway. Because I mean, even if you got a good designer, it's never going to look exactly the same. Like, who's doing this? I bet you none of those people that do the photoshopping do the size scaling. Maybe they put some shadows in to make it look like it's from that scene, but they're never going to do size scaling, right? So yeah, you kind of get what you put out, right?
Yeah, but I mean, it's very hard not to do Photoshop job on the pictures, because you want to present, like you want a collage of things, and then you want to present because pictures are there to tell the story. So you have infographics and things like that. So how do you avoid using Photoshop in the pictures without really impacting the performance of your customer experience?
How would you use it? I mean, I personally, as far as Photoshop goes, I only use it for infographics. For example, if I have a color of a product, I won't change the color by Photoshop because it always looks weird. I would put a tag on the top showing the actual color. So I'm not defrauding the customers, showing them something that's not. I'm just telling them, hey, this product is not that color, it's this color, for instance. So I would never Photoshop the actual product in, because I've never seen someone do it well.
When you say tag, you mean you are putting like inside the picture, you are simply explaining, what the real,
like you see on clothes in a retail store, they'll have like a tag hanging off of it. I'll have a tag that has a color in it, for instance.
I see. Okay. All right. And as far as the conversion rates, can you share with us? So you are in home category, right?
Yeah.
So can you share with us some conversion rates before and after that you experienced? And also, if you know what the benchmark is for your category, let's put that in perspective for us.
Okay. Are you talking about brand content conversion rate, like the changes, or just in general?
No, the conversion rate on the page.
On the page. Mine is extremely low conversion rate because the products are very high price. So I think the average of ours on Product Opportunity Explorer is around 2 to 3%, 2.5%, which is really low. And when I did my brand content test, we actually went from 3.1, I think, to 3.8, something like that. Yeah.
I see. So as far as being low, and that's due to your high price point.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we have products up to $750. So.
Okay. And do you know what the category benchmark is?
Yeah, I believe it's I think it changed a bit, but it's about 2.4 something percent like that.
For a home category.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, this data is not available, of course, as a benchmark. You know, what are benchmarks per category, per price tiers, and things like that. You can really go crazy. I know, I mean, I happen to be very big on conversion rates and staying on top of it, especially as a trend over time. But you just don't have those benchmarks for per category and per price tier. The only thing that I know that's available is the general industry benchmark of conversion rate in general, across the board, which is 12%.
Yeah.
So, but to achieve 12% for $800 price point,
it's not
it's
gonna happen.
not gonna happen.
Exactly. I mean, we have one product that's about $20, and that hits 15% conversion rate. So, yeah, we hit benchmarks on that, but the bigger ones, no way, no way.
Yeah. So on those lower price items, have you measured the impact of the A+ content changes?
I can't remember stats, but we did run, for instance, that small product I have. We noticed a keyword. It started getting a lot of sales for a keyword that I hadn't actually factored in. I wasn't advertising for it. So I started advertising for it, wasn't getting sales. And then what I did is I changed my enhanced content to almost target it in 2 different blocks. And we get some sales from that now. So we get spikes around like February to April now. So.
And what were those 2 different blocks?
These are just the side, I don't know what you call it, but when you have a side picture and text on the other side.
Oh, I see. Okay. So do you know which one performed better?
Which block?
Yeah.
We haven't tested it being in the top one because on that product, I didn't want to overwrite the main usage. It has kind of a few different usages. So I kept the extra keywords as kind of a secondary. I didn't want to feature it at the top. So for instance, that brand content has one large picture at the top with a big headline and 2 side blocks, you know, picture side, text this side. So they've only been tested in those blocks.
I see.
Ones.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense. So the other thing that I'm wondering is your image stack. Like you have a bunch of pictures. Do you use the pictures you have in your image stack in your A+, or is your A+ completely different than your image stack?
It's a little of both. We have a lot of products. So the brand content has some pictures from a certain variation, for instance. So you won't see it on maybe 80-90% of the products, but you'll see it in the brand content. So yeah, I prefer to have different pictures for the brand content if possible. I don't want to repeat anything through the top of the listing.
So you prefer to have a totally different set of pictures in your A+, and
Yeah.
then leave the product pictures completely separate.
Exactly.
Have you tried using like a mix versus just completely new, or this is just something that you've done always?
Just done always. I just look at it like thinking if I was a customer, you know, if I've looked at the pictures at the top and I scroll down and I see the same stuff, I go, oh yeah, I'm just not gonna look at that, right? I've already seen it.
Okay. What you just said is very important. If I was the customer, so in other words, you have to put yourself in the customer's shoes, right? So in order to look at, because we are so heavily invested in our product and the content we're building, and that's our perspective. But
Yeah.
you really cannot be thinking that way.
Yeah, I think we're quite biased sometimes too, because probably you might think of your brand as almost like your baby, and you're very biased in how you think this is good and this isn't. But really all it's coming down to is you look at your product versus those other ones objectively, like logically, not like, oh, I love this product because I made that picture, but is this one actually better than this one? Because that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. As far as the customer experience, you know, if they've already seen the pictures and then, you know, you're showing them again, there's nothing new. So they're going to ignore the rest of the A+ as well as a result.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, and it's the same with the text. I think a lot of people try and keyword stuff and put just boring things in there, but, you know, I don't, like when I shop on Amazon, I skim a few words, maybe a headline or something, look at a couple pictures, maybe see the reviews, and then I make a decision. I'm not going to read a huge block of text. So those first few words and those first few pictures are the ones that actually get your intrigue, and you actually start reading maybe a little piece. So that's the other factor, is I don't chuck it full of text because I know they're not going to read it.
So as we record this, it's in May of 2023. We are talking about A+ content. So Amazon released this premium A+. So what is your experience so far with premium A+?
We're just starting to design all the new stuff, so we don't have all of the products ported over yet, but I see it only being better because it just fills more of the screen and the features are nicer. You know, you have I quite like the Q&A thing now, like as a Q&A slot in there. You can put video in there, which is great. It's going to auto play there. I think it's only going to enhance things. Same with the brand story.
Okay, well, that's a good segue to the brand story. So let's talk about the brand story a little bit. What is the brand story and how do you use it?
We basically target. So for instance, my way of looking at brands is you remember a brand by like maybe one or two words, you know. Like Zara, maybe you remember them for having the newest trend in fashion or something, and they change their stuff regularly, right? So it's a small thing. So we highlight two things in our brand, and that's basically our brand story. And we try and target the emotions. So it's not like, oh, we're just selling a table. We're selling a table for this type of benefit, this type of person. So we're trying to speak to the person directly in the brand story.
And brand story is, where is that in the whole A+ content structure?
Just above the premium content, just before it.
Okay. So when you say above the premium content, so when you go to create A+, the brand story is, there is a separate block for the brand story, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And tell us a little bit more about what to put in that brand story. So you obviously mentioned, you know, you picked the what is going to be stuck in people's minds when they see your brand, and that's what you are emphasizing. How about telling your story about why you started the brand, or what are the origins of it and things like that?
The origins of my brand in general.
Yeah, as far as telling your brand story with your company, the origins of the company, things like that. Do you
Okay.
do those in it or not?
Yeah, I mean, the origin of the two, let's say, taglines or factors that are my brand are when people were writing reviews and giving me feedback and emails and different things like that, they'd use certain words very frequently. So then I started to think, well, okay, our brand really is these two things. We're not a table seller, we're these two things seller, you know? So that's where the two words came from, and I just expanded upon them sort of emotionally. So, and the same with the pictures, I highlight those two emotional aspects in the pictures. So the brand story, you have a big background picture, and our background picture highlights those two factors to hit the emotions, because I want them to scroll down and feel something, not just be like, oh, this is a table, you know.
Okay. So I understand. So those two things that people were emphasizing when it came to your brand, were they in line with what you wanted for your brand?
Yes, yeah. Yeah,
So
because we were trying to be, for instance, one of the aspects is more premium than the other brands. And that's one of the factors. We had a higher review percentage, and people, you know, they were using other words, but sort of saying ours was more premium than other ones. So that was one aspect. And that's what we always put in our pictures too. So every photo shoot is kind of tailored towards that.
So you wanted that sense of exclusivity, high value
Exactly, yeah.
feeling around your product. And how do you put that in pictures, other than making sure that pictures are good quality? How do you communicate that through pictures?
Because ours are home, it's about status and the lifestyle. So, you know, if say if you take a picture of your product and you have a ugly table or ugly sofa in the background, it makes your product look lower value, right? So we put a specific type of decor behind and around our products. And the other factor is to make the colors stand out. This is the other thing people don't do, is you can't see the contrast of your product, because people see contrast and they want to see the full product in that square. Like, you don't have that much space to fill up, but if you fill the whole thing and it's contrasting and different to the other products that are there, you're going to get more clicks.
Yeah, that's a common problem I see with designers, especially. They use light color over light color.
Yeah, and you can't
And
see it.
you can't see anything, you can't read, or dark over dark. That's even and the worst combination that they pick, I don't know why this gets picked all the time. They use black and dark blue together, and it makes no sense. Plus, those colors never go together. I mean, it's one thing to have light blue, but dark blue and black, it doesn't really work. So it's a big deal.
100%. We actually did a test. If you know the website PickFu, I had an old picture which was highly contrasting, like very high, and the new one was higher quality, like it looked more luxurious and all these things, right? So I was thinking, oh, this new picture's going to win, but it was too white. You couldn't see the product fully. So the old picture actually won by, I think it was like 70 to 30%. So wow. It's bigger difference than even the status around the picture.
Yeah. So this is another point about pictures and backgrounds and things like that. People like these dark backgrounds, especially black backgrounds. So like they put pictures with black background. Have you tested with those versus just white background?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So tell
Early on in my niche, actually, everyone was doing the typical white background, or they'd copied the background, a light brown or whatever it was. And I went straight in with a fully black background. And I still use some of those pictures now, actually. We're changing them soon, but they just got so many more clicks than the old ones.
So the black background got more clicks.
Yeah, and it was not even prettier than the white ones. It really wasn't. It was just a contrast.
Is there a contrast in general, or was there a contrast compared to what else was out there?
Both. 100% both. Yeah, because nobody else was using black backgrounds.
Okay. So the lesson here is really be aware of what other people's pictures are in terms
100%.
of background, and then try to.
That was
This
half of the reason by doing that. And if you notice in a lot of niches, for instance, if you have a niche where the main picture, you can't really do much with it, like maybe it's a bottle or something, you'll notice people start changing the angle, like flipping it sideways or putting some graphic over the top just to be different. Because if they see the same thing and this one's got more reviews, why are they going to click your one?
Exactly. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about linking the brand story to the store. What is the best way?
Best way, we just have that main block, which you can put 4 pictures in, and they link through to your store. You just see, I think you write "see all collection," so there's a link right there to it.
Okay.
And that's just the main thing that we use.
So inside your brand story, there is a way to link your store by putting different words. So it's just like a link to go back. And then that could be a picture, it could be an arrow, it could be, whatever, right?
Yeah, I think we haven't tested the different versions. We just have 4 square pictures that link through to those products. And I think below it has a text link, "see all collection."
Okay.
And there's a couple other blocks. I think you can put some other text, but we just have that one there.
And what would be the main motivation behind driving them to your store? I mean, obviously you want to sell more products, but is there like a specific intention in taking them to your store, or a specific section of the store?
For me, it's for selling the other products too. We have a lot of products that are related. So, I look at Amazon as like a real estate platform. So you want all of your products to show up on your other products, right? And you want whoever's viewing you to see all your other products too. And I think one of the best places for that is your store, because it's like they're now on your website. They can click all the top links, and you can be more creative with what you put on the store than you can on your product page necessarily, because your product page is full of ads for other products.
Yeah. Okay. So, I had a guest earlier, a few weeks ago. What they did was they knew which one was their main item, the one that was receiving the most business, most visibility, and everything else. So what they did, they created their brand store as a vehicle for upselling other items that would be an upsell from that main item. So on the A+ page that they put on that particular item, they simply linked it to their store page, which would then be speaking to the customer as the continuation of their journey from that product detail page to the store. And he was saying that they registered quite an increase because of that, where sales were coming from their store pages.
Yeah, I agree. It's a good way of doing it. For instance, our product pages, category pages in our store, they have all the other products shown below because they're related. Because I want those products to show up on the block where it says people also bought this.
Right.
It's one of the first slots where you can see another product.
Mhm. Yeah, it's different ways to do it. So, so tell us a little bit about overall on Amazon. If you could wish one thing for Amazon to change in their policies for third-party sellers like you, what would that be?
Their policies, oh man, there's too many things. There's too many.
That usually is a big question, I know, but you get to tell us one. What's the most important?
One thing that's on my mind recently is I think they made the customer experience worse with this too, is they have way too many ads now on some of the big keywords pages. You know, before it used to be, 3-4 ads at the top, and then you see all the organic results. Now you've got like 20 different ads there at the top. So it's very much like a pay to play, and it's just going to keep going that way.
So you would rather see less ads? Because
Yeah.
when you search, you have the sponsored brands at the top, right?
Yeah,
And then you have the sponsored products.
exactly. Then you get 4 organic, and then you have 4, what do they call, Amazon choice, highly rated, something else. And then you have more ads, and you have more organic. It's just filled with ads.
Yeah, they are mishmashing the organics with the sponsored.
100%, yeah. So it's almost like the only value of being organic is if you're in the top 4. Otherwise, you're so far down the page that you don't get seen.
So you'd rather see less sponsored products.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's true. Pay to play is definitely more and more visible, but at the same time, all those people where you have sponsored product, they're getting the exposure that otherwise they would never get.
You could say that, but does it make it better? I don't know. I mean, you just see a lot of the sponsored products I see in my category are pretty terrible ones, like they're new Chinese knockoffs that are coming in with, and they don't stay for very long. They'll be there for a few months, sell a bunch, get some bad reviews, and they leave.
Yes, that does happen. So this is great. So you really figured out a way to leverage the A+ content to push your conversion higher. And then with that, you're driving your organic ranking. And hopefully with intention to rely less on the paid advertising.
Yeah, exactly.
Then-
Everybody wants that. You want more organic sales than PPC, because otherwise you're just basically just paying Amazon. You're just giving them money.
Do you measure how much of your sales are coming organically and how much through paid?
Yes, yeah.
And what is that number?
We're pretty dependent on ads for some of our bigger products, but we have the margin to pay for it. If you have a $750 product, you can spend a decent amount on ads and still be profitable. For our smaller products, I think we're like 60% organic, 40% paid ads.
Well, those are lower ticket items, you say?
That one's like $20.
Okay, and the higher ticket ones, it's the other way around?
Exactly, it's more the other way. It's more like 60, 65, 35, 70, 30.
For paid, okay. Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, this is Amazon's backyard, right? So if they see suddenly you're getting more and more of your business through organic, they're gonna do something so that you're gonna have to pay. They don't want you. They don't want you. I am just curious to see what happens with this whole business, because this whole business being Amazon brands are also selling in the same place, right? So that's the biggest controversial story. Amazon has all the data on whoever is selling whatever, and they can easily spin off their version of it under their brand. They don't have to worry about ranking or advertising. And the next thing is, you take a hit. So that's the biggest aspect of it. And then the other controversial subject is this pay to play. So how much of that really is by design and how much of it is just organic. So I think those two areas are things that Amazon will have to have some hard decisions to make. And frankly, in my opinion, I don't think Amazon is gonna be in the business of making their own brands in the long run.
Yeah, I think what I saw, they seem to slowed their own brands down, from what I remember. I remember a couple of years ago, they were making new brands of everything. I saw it in all my categories too.
Yeah,
Sticking themselves right at the top, for free. But I'm sure, didn't the EU put some sort of law against them, stop them doing that, because you can't be a marketplace and a seller at the same time. It's like conflict of interest.
yeah.
So
I mean, look, you can do anything you want, right? So it's but when you reach the kind of size Amazon reached, and now they are also collecting data, it becomes a little bit more sensitive. And the U.S. Congress went after them. In fact, there was a substantial report that was published where they demanded several questions, like heavy duty questions, and Amazon provided the answer. In fact, until they provided the answer to that inquiry, nobody really knew the exact number of sellers that existed and how many of them were active and things like that. So they disclosed all that. And part of the concern was by the US Congress, well, you know exactly what the sellers are doing, and then you just go create your own product and then take away their advantage. So that's what it is. And frankly, I don't understand it. If somebody's doing business out of my own backyard and then they pay me 15% on every single transaction, why would I want to set up shop in the same backyard, invest in inventory, deal with production, and then everything else that goes with it? Makes no sense, right?
it's just greed. I think it's more and more, right? You could say the same thing. We're already making, I don't know, $1 billion on advertising. Why would we want to make 1.1 billion and make the customer experience worse, in my opinion? Just more money, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I think part of it was, Amazon has so many different ways to try new ideas, and the company itself always invites many, many ideas, and they know some of them will fail. So I think this creating their own brands was one of those that they experimented with. And I don't see that going too far into the future. Pay to play, that's a different story. That's controversial because they're getting a lot of their revenue from advertising, and advertising is becoming much, much more instrumental in launches and things like that. So I guess we'll wait and see what happens there. So that was a great conversation, Matt. So tell us a little bit about yourself. So I always like to learn about people's life experiences. Tell us, start from the beginning. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in a small town in the south of the UK, kind of in the middle of nowhere, really. And I mean, as it relates to my Amazon stuff, I'd say I'm kind of contrarian. I always sort of went my own direction with things. So I couldn't do the normal 9 to 5, go work for someone else. I was too bored. I always got fired from my job, so I left or whatever. So I had to do my own thing, really. So when I wanted to get into Amazon, it had to work. You know what I mean? Because I wasn't going to go back to doing 9 to 5 stuff. So I was going to make it work some way.
So why is it that you are always a contrarian? Where do you think that comes from?
Probably, I don't know. I think when I was very young, my parents always used to say stuff like, you're always asking questions about things. Like, I'm always asking why. Like, why this? What does that thing do? What's this? And I don't know, my mind was always, inquisitive. And then I was always very imaginative too. Like, I was in my own space. So I always had my own creativity and imagination. I was always not listening to other people. I was very stubborn, so I wasn't going other people's direction.
And where do you think that came from?
I had it since really early, you know, like I was asking things like that when I was like 5 years old, and you know, I'm not sure, man. Like, could you say genetics or I don't know?
You know, it's interesting you say 5 years old, because they say that a person's character is formed between the ages of 0 and 5.
Really?
So by the time you started asking those questions, it was already done deal.
I think so, yeah. I mean, like, and maybe even the way you're born. Like, I didn't have the most smooth birth, for instance. So I don't know, maybe things happen right from your birth, you know?
What do you mean by your birth was what was the circumstances?
I had what do they call it? The cords. I had the cord wrapped around my neck.
Oh,
So I could have died at birth. There's kind of a weird story around that, but like I was supposed to be born a day later, but my mum didn't want me being born on the day her dad died, so she had me early, a day early. And because I was allowed birth a day early, I didn't die from the cord being around my neck. Otherwise, I would have if I was born a day later. If that makes sense. So,
and when did you learn this story?
oh, years and years ago, like whenever I could make sense of it, I guess. Maybe when I'm like 8 or 10, I don't know.
So what was that like to hear that you could have died? Did that kind of shed a light on some of the things that you were feeling? And because you know things kind of come together when you hear something.
I don't know. I mean, it's so I don't have much memory of stuff before I'm even like 5 years old, like very small snippets. So it doesn't really have a feeling for me. I don't know. I can't map it to anything.
Yeah. So it sounds like, as you know, your birth was like against all odds kind of situation, right?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, my mum will call it it's fate. You know, it's fate that I wasn't born the day after and I'd have died, and I was born on this day instead.
So if it was the following day, you could have died.
Probably, I think what I heard is 100% I would have, yeah. Well, because I came out with it around my neck and I was like purple, so.
Oh my God. So you are meant to be here.
Maybe. Yeah.
So you know, I had a similar thing, you know, myself, and I think that I'm here for a purpose. So do you ever feel like you are here for a purpose, or you are here against all odds, or?
I'm definitely against odds, but I think for that, when you bring that purpose question up, purpose is basically whatever you define it as now. You could have your purpose be a million different things, you know? I don't really look at like that question like we came for a purpose, like we're just an organism that we got born, and you can basically, we have the freedom now as a human to just choose whatever purpose you like, you know? That could be making Amazon and whatever, or it could be, I don't know, going into the wilderness or something, but.
So I want to tie this back to what I heard you mention earlier, that you didn't want a 9-to-5 job. You could not really keep a 9-to-5 job. So this is what we call unemployable. So you are an entrepreneur. So entrepreneurs are unemployable because they don't really conform to any particular standard. You can't make rules. They are dreamers. They are visionaries. And therefore they're not going to work in a place. It's not, they're not going to survive. So did that tie back to this birth situation and you know, surviving against all odds?
Maybe that, and maybe when I'm a teenager, I'm kind of I'm kind of getting bored of things when I'm a teenager, and I got into computers like very early, like when I was, I don't know, like 11 or 12. So I was starting to go deep into the internet and the computers and games and different things like that. So I was already imaginative and like by myself doing these things. So I was always aware of the internet and the opportunities that was there. So I think that's where a lot of that came from too. Just the time I was spending doing that.
Okay. And how did your parents react to this, you not fitting in and you wanting to do your own thing? Did they support it, or constantly asking questions? Was that like a pain in the neck for them, or did they encourage you?
Oh, they loved it, of course. Yeah. Don't do academics, don't get a normal job and just be on the computer. They loved
Well,
it.
and they supported this.
No, I'm joking. No, they didn't really. More just questioning it. They just questioned it, like, why are you doing this stuff? What's he doing? You know, what are you doing up there? And you know, this sort of thing. I think
So
most parents, you know, especially back then, they want you to get that sort of status job, you know, I don't know, like a doctor, or, you know, something that sounds intelligent and maybe makes some money, you know?
yeah. Well, my favorite story is, I don't know if you watch Star Wars, a fan of Star Wars, but what's the Star, you know about Star Wars. It's yeah, huge success. So I don't really follow the new ones anymore, but of course, the early ones I always followed. So in one of the new ones, this young man who's an actor, struggling actor, wanting to be an actor, and he auditions for a role in Star Wars, and he gets it, and it's one of the main roles. So like he's over the moon. Of course, all along as a struggling actor, his mom is always saying, when are you going to get a real job? When are you going to get a real job? When are you going to constantly begging? And then of course the kid wants to be an actor. That's what he wants. That's what he always dreamed of, and that's what he wants. No, when are you going to get a real job? So anyway, so finally he gets this part, and then he's over the moon. He knows he's going to be a huge success, and he calls his mother and says, "Hey, Ma, I got news for you. I got the part in Star Wars. I'm going to be famous. And she goes, great, I'm really happy for you. Does that mean now it will be easier for you to go and get a real job?"
Yeah, it's like super traditional, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't understand. It's like parents and older people, they don't understand the new age of jobs and work, right? They're still in like the industrial era.
Yeah, it's so true. With one little thing that I want to add, I think that it's not a matter of age, but it's a matter of mindset. Because even today, we see people who are like, I'm over 60 years old, okay? And I see 40, 45, 50-year-olds that are clueless. They are typical dinosaurs. They're younger than me. And as yet, I am much younger than people who are half my age, because their mindset is different. So I'm seeing that this is more of a mindset than age. And also, of course, whatever that you're doing, you need to be able to keep up with it physically. You have to be in good health, and thankfully, I can do so. I'm seeing that this is more of a mindset than age.
Yeah, this how open you are to new ideas, right?
Right.
Like for example, some older people have always used, I don't know, sent letters to people. If they're not open to new ideas and ways of doing things, then yeah, they're going to be that version where they're like a dinosaur. But you could be older and actually be like, oh, that's some new technology, I'm going to try and use this thing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's the attitude. And I never forget, there was one day there was an event, and the keynote speaker was this paraplegic guy who came in a wheelchair. And it's like this little guy, perfect speech, perfect everything. And he said, I bet you are all looking at me now, feeling sorry. He says, don't. Because I am looking at all of you and I am feeling sorry for all of you. Because none of you have the kind of money I have and the kind of people I hang out with, none of you. And you would be ready to give up anything just to be in my place. So he says, well, let me show you what would fit more into what you're thinking for me. And then suddenly he changed this little wheelchair. He kind of shriveled, became small, and then looking down and said, now I fit better into what you're thinking for me, right? So it's all about your energy. So he said, it's your energy. It's my energy that brings people to me. It's my energy that keeps them around and blah, blah. So, what you're talking about is exactly it's the attitude, and it's your energy or attitude. That's what determines.
Yeah, I mean, the wheelchair guy sounds like he has a chip on his shoulder, but yeah, 100%. You can be, you can still be happy or whatever, doing what you want, but without hating other people too. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's another point. Well, that's a whole different way to look at things. Unfortunately these days, bad news make news, good news nobody cares about. It's like that. Anything bad, anything negative always is much more popular. But I'd say that's the advantage in a way. If you can do that by standing out, you can actually be a lot stronger. So it's a great conversation, Matthew. So tell us, how can people reach you? What's the best way to contact you?
My Twitter is the best. So twitter.com/dialordmatthew.
Okay. And we'll put your contact information on with your episode. So anybody who wants to reach, they'll reach out to you. So great conversation, Matt. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me too.
And this brings us to the end of another episode, and I'll see you on the next one.
If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review the episode, and share it with someone you think would benefit from it too.